In my senior year of high school, I contracted a gynecological disease from my mom, and the scholarship I was waiting for to cover treatment was given to the class beauty by my childhood friend. I wanted to ask for an explanation, but he shouted my secret in front of the whole class. If it itches down there, just endure it. It's an incurable dirty disease anyway. What's the point of money for you? Erin is kind-hearted. She used the scholarship to feed the school's stray cats, which is more worthwhile than you spending it on a dirty disease. From that day on, rumors spread like wildfire, and my life plunged into an abyss. A classmate who knew the truth asked if he wanted to help explain things for me, but he just smirked dismissively. I never said she got the disease from fooling around. Everyone was just joking. It'll blow over soon. She knows I speak my mind. For years, she's always been the one to apologize first. Give her the cold shoulder for a few days, and she'll come crying to beg for reconciliation. Just wait and see. But this time, he couldn't wait any longer. Somehow, the rumors about me reached my mother's workplace. That night, overwhelmed by guilt for all she had done to me, she leaped into the icy river. That same day, I also vanished from Brian's world. We met again 10 years later, at the class reunion. With reddened eyes, he grabbed me and demanded, just because of a piece of gossip, you abandoned me for so long. All these years, have you been able to sleep well? Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Cecilia, don't bother waiting for this year's scholarship. I gave the spot to Erin for you. Brian walked into the classroom with the class beauty Erin, who was carrying a few stray cats in her arms. The entire class instantly erupted in exclamations of awe. TSK TSK. Makes sense. Our class beauty isn't just kind-hearted and gorgeous. She's even using the scholarship to help stray cats. I stood frozen in place. The relentless itching and pain in my lower body had tormented me for a full 6 months. The auntie at the small clinic had clearly said it could be cured for just 1,000 yuan. For these 6 months, I worked desperately hard, saved up all my credits, and achieved the top scores in every exam across the school. This scholarship should have been mine. I couldn't help but stand up, and the classroom's chatter suddenly ceased. Summoning my courage, I stood before the class beauty and quietly demanded, "Why?" Slap. I was suddenly shoved aside by Brian, who rushed over. "Are you insane? Cecilia, I already told you to give up." I stared at Brian in disbelief. You know how much I need it. The incessant itching tormented me. I clenched my teeth to resist scratching. Yet my eyes involuntarily reddened. It should have been mine. He's the class monitor after all. He knows exactly how hard I've worked these past 6 months. The last credit goes to Erin then. Brian impatiently shook off his hand. I was about to say something more when Erin's stray cat suddenly screeched and leaped away from her arms. I dodged instinctively, but Erin, startled, slammed hard into the corner of my desk, her elbow immediately swelling red. "Brian." Erin suddenly burst into tears. I stood there helplessly. Brian grew anxious. He frantically grabbed Erin's hand. "Are you okay?" Before I could even apologize, he stepped in front of Erin again, shielding her protectively and shouting at me in anger. "Cecilia, will you ever stop?" I stared at him blankly, suddenly taking 2 steps back. I didn't touch Erin, and besides, the scholarship was rightfully mine. Brian darkened his expression. Like a knight, he blocked the already red-eyed Erin from speaking. "What can you even do with it? Isn't it just to treat your filthy disease?" Whoosh! The whole class erupted in an uproar. Flustered, I tried to stop him, pleading in a whisper. "Don't say it. It's the truth. You've been itching for so long. Do you think money can cure it? Please." I tugged at his sleeve, but he shook me off violently. He ignored my already pale face and still didn't stop. "Erin is kind-hearted. The stray cats at school are about to give birth, and this money is for their rescue. Do you think your filthy disease compares to these cats?" The next second, the classmates, who had been silent for a while, suddenly burst into noise. All my classmates were looking at me with teasing eyes. The chatter around me was piercing and deafening. Who would have thought Cecilia looked so proper but actually has that kind of disease? No wonder I felt itchy all over after touching her. People like her should just drop out. Why bother ruining things for the rest of us? Who knew she seemed like such a good girl but was actually so slutty in private? Brian didn't expect his classmates to imagine things like this. For a moment, he regretted it, watching me bury my head and sit back in my seat, trembling all over. He cleared his throat lightly. "Cecilia, that's not what I meant." Before I could finish speaking, I nodded quietly. All right. The scholarship is hers. Last time Erin took advantage of me going to the bathroom and sat in my seat, rummaging through my backpack. She took a liking to the only birthday gift my mom bought for me, a pen. He wanted to take it right then. I didn't agree. Later, after returning from PE class, I discovered that Brian had thrown that pen directly into the school's garbage truck. The pen instantly turned into a piece of sheet metal. From then on, I dared not refuse Erin's any requests. She couldn't stand my thick long hair, and after evening self-study, my hair was cut into a patchy short style. She didn't like that my skin was fairer than hers. The itching powder was spilled all over my desk. I accepted it all. But about being sick, I only told Brian. At this moment, everyone's probing and amused gazes felt like nails piercing into me. I sat stiffly on the stool, clutching the hem of my clothes and no longer arguing. Seeing how easily I gave in, Brian walked up to me and patted my head. Cecilia, be good. If you really need it. Before he could finish, Erin suddenly collapsed beside Brian. Someone suddenly shouted, "The class beauty has fainted." Brian, my stomach hurts. Brian immediately tensed up. He supported Erin and carefully helped her back to her seat. He skipped physics class again to fetch hot water for her in the hallway. I went to the convenience store and bought some hand warmers. Even during the long break between classes, I ordered her favorite plush toy for her through a delivery app. Erin blushed and said thank you, her hand clutching Brian's sleeve tightly, not letting him leave. I sat not far away, watching quietly, my heart aching as if gnawed by ants, filled with unbearable bitterness. These are all things I taught him, yet he has never treated me this way. During PE class when I was in so much menstrual pain I nearly fainted, Brian didn't even offer me a hand. He just stood far away in the corner. That day he sent a message. Are you feeling better now? At 18, young master like me can't do these things. People would laugh at me. When I'm 28 and marry you, then I'll be qualified to do them. From that moment on, I never begged for his help again, no longer looking at the sweet scenery over there. I counted the time until class ended, wanting to go do my part-time job. This month's rent with mom is still a bit short. The bell rang and I was about to leave when Brian grabbed me. Stop right there. You haven't apologized to Erin for today's incident yet. I just thought he was being unreasonable. Let go of me. He grabbed me forcefully and shoved me hard. I told you to apologize. I fell to the ground. An unbearable pain shot through my lower body, and red stains seeped through my pants. A passing classmate screamed, covered her mouth in disgust, and quickly stepped aside. Disgusting. It's definitely a filthy disease, and it's even bleeding. What if it infects everyone? In an instant, all the classmates glared at me. No one knew who started it first. Backpacks, pencil cases, sharp compasses, all were hurled at my head. Brian just held Erin and stood by without helping. Cecilia, apologize to Erin. You scared her with your outburst today, and now you've made yourself so dirty. Your condition, it's not contagious, is it? I took a deep breath and wiped the blood from my face where the compass had cut me. I crouched down, holding my head. I'm sorry. Perhaps it was my weak compliance that made everyone lose interest. The crowd dispersed with awkward laughter. Gritting my teeth, I stood up and ran away quickly. Cecilia, Brian was chasing after me. I ran faster and faster. The wetness at the corner of my eyes stung the wound like salt water. On the way home, Mother was sitting by the bed holding that small metal box, counting the money. Seeing me come in, she stood up with concern. Cecilia, have you eaten? I've eaten. I forced a smile onto my face, but suddenly, a look of suppressed pain appeared on Mom's face. I quickly made an excuse and hid in my room. Closing the door, I leaned against it and listened to the muffled cries of pain outside. Silently, eyes reddened. Last year, Mom wasn't like this. A walking corpse. Listening to her sobs, I bit my lower lip until it bled. It's all my fault. A sudden downpour started outside the window. Raindrops pelted the torn screen like bullets. It was suffocating. That night, there was an even heavier rain. Mom was worried about me and planned to pick me up after evening self-study. The alley entrance was too dark. A drunkard was hiding in the corner. When I got back, Mom hid in the bathroom and showered for a long time, covered in wounds. She comforted me, saying she had just fallen. Later, she was fired. People in the alley all said she had contracted a filthy disease. I don't believe it. I often got into fights with those women, until the day I got my period. My pants were stained, and no one told me. The embarrassing appearance was captured by Erin and spread in the class group chat. Brian even hid the sanitary pads left in my desk to make her laugh. I could only rush home in a panic to find clothes. The room was too dark for me to see clearly, and I ended up wearing my mom's underwear. Later, I also fell ill, but I didn't dare tell her, afraid she would break down. I kept thinking about the scholarship money coming in, so I could go to a small clinic to get some medicine. But now the money is gone. The sound of rain slowly fades away. The cries outside have also stopped. I quickly pushed the door open with my head down, not daring to look at her. Mom, I'm off to work. At the entrance of the newly opened bubble tea shop, ignoring my growling stomach, I handed out flyers on the nearly 37-degree streets. Wearing a heavy mascot head, sweat began to seep out, and the unbearable itching returned to my body. I was so uncomfortable that I wanted to bend over, but the hood fell off. When I looked up, two familiar figures stood before me, Brian and Erin. The two were standing in front of the doll, kissing. At that moment, I froze in place. During the last evening's self-study session, the entire school suddenly lost power. In the dark night, Brian pulled me into the hallway. That was the first time he kissed me. Hot breath, the scent of mint, an awkward kiss. Brian's handsome face was just 1 centimeter away from me. His eyelashes brushed against my face, tickling me. Cecilia, let's be together after we graduate, and then never ever be apart. Okay. I nodded in a fluster, yet couldn't bear to let go of his hand. I always thought he kept his promises just like I did. Turns out, it was just my wishful thinking. Flustered, I picked up the headpiece, only to hear Erin let out a scream. Cecilia is here. I wanted to run away, but Erin grabbed me by the arm. She stood before me, holding Brian's hand, pointing at me with reddened eyes. Brian, doesn't Cecilia have a dirty disease? If she's handing out flyers here, everyone will get infected. I'll go talk to the boss. She turned her head and ran away. I panicked. This was my last chance to make money. If I couldn't pay the rent, my mother and I would be kicked out. No. I grabbed her hand, only for her to scream and pull away. The flyers were scattered by a sudden gust of wind. Hearing the commotion, the shop owner still came out. I froze in place, watching Brian explain everything word by word to Erin. Erin nodded with a giggle, occasionally turning her head to sneer at me. Don't come back anymore. The boss threw the 120 yuan wages for these 2 days onto the ground. All my means of making money were gone. Bitch. I couldn't help but spit at Erin. She immediately covered her face and started crying. Brian, you know I meant well. Just wanted Cecilia to recover fully before coming out to work. Did I do something wrong by thinking about the safety of so many classmates around me? She sobbed, her face streaked with tears like rain on pear blossoms. I stared in disbelief at Brian's furious face. Cecilia. He snatched the envelope containing my salary from me. With a swift motion, he hurled it violently into the nearby pond. Are you so poor you can't survive? If you love money this much, go fish it out of the water. And apologize to Erin. She was kind enough to think of you. How can you be so ungrateful? I just wanted to jump into the pool, but he held me back tightly. Apologize. I fell to my knees with a thud. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was my fault for not knowing better. Brian was stunned and let go. Despite it being the height of summer, I felt chilled to the bone. Without a second thought, I gritted my teeth and jumped into the foul-smelling pond. From dawn till dusk, I fished around. Hey, Cecilia, you can't be serious. For such a pittance. Brian stood by the pond, looking somewhat uneasy. Stop looking. I'll give you the money. Erin suddenly spoke up. Brian, it's already dark. I'm scared. Brian glanced at me. Without looking back, he took Erin and left. I spent the entire night soaking in the icy pool water but found nothing. When I returned home, I saw several people gathered at my doorstep. The neighbors were gossiping on the sidelines. What a sin. Those debt collectors are here again. Mom's cries and pleas came from the room. I rushed in frantically. Several men surrounded her. Terrified, I rushed over and hugged my mother, kneeling on the ground to beg. We'll pay back the money. Please. Uncles. Don't hurt my mom. The house was completely trashed by those people. The leading man looked at me, gave a strange smile, and stared at my mother. Your daughter has grown up. My mother suddenly rushed over and hugged me tightly. I was smothered in her embrace, almost unable to breathe. Don't involve her. I'll pay back the money. The man sneered coldly. You have one last month. If you can't pay up by then, you're coming with me. He left, leaving my mother and me trembling where we sat. I held her hand tightly, constantly comforting her. Once I get into university, we'll have money. Mom, don't be afraid. 2 years ago, I suffered from a serious illness. To pay for my treatment, Mom borrowed money from shady lenders. I've never managed to pay it all off these years. Countless times I wanted to drop out of school, but Mom threatened to kill herself to force me to study hard. She said my future was the only hope for the two of us. That night, I stopped thinking about anything. I just want to avoid Brian and Erin, and get through the last days of high school peacefully. Get into college and take Mom away with me. But they didn't let me go. When I arrived at the classroom, I suddenly found my seat reeking of a foul stench. My classmates all looked at me mockingly. Someone had placed a trash can upside down on my desk. All my books were torn to pieces. There was also a note stuck on the desk. I walked over to take a look. My legs went weak. This turned out to be my medical report. When I went to the small clinic, Brian accompanied me. I didn't dare bring the report home. Brian offered to keep it for me. I trusted him. After all, he had once kept an important secret for me. But now, my report is displayed before everyone's eyes. Someone said lightly, "It's settled then. Cecilia, she really has that filthy disease. How disgusting." Brian walked up to me with his arms crossed. She tapped my forehead with her finger. "Yesterday Erin waited all night, and you didn't even say sorry. Do you know her eyes were swollen from crying?" "How would I know? Last night, I spent the whole night picking up bottles with my mom in the alley just to scrape together enough for the rent. Brian just wouldn't let me off." "Erin wasn't wrong, was she? What if the classmates get infected because of the flyers you're handing out? She was looking out for you, but you didn't appreciate it and even laid hands on her. She's gentle and kind, never holding grudges. I can't stand it. The evidence is right in front of you. The whole class knows she didn't spread rumors about you. Well, are you willing to apologize now?" I clenched my fists tightly, suddenly feeling utterly exhausted at that moment. I thought I was loved. Turns out I was just easy to fool. "Sorry, Erin." This time, I didn't argue, didn't look up, just quietly apologized. Brian frowned slightly. "You don't have to. It's okay, Cecilia. I'm not blaming you." Erin smiled and placed her hand on my arm. Her fingers dug into me relentlessly. Soon, my arm was covered in bruises. I cried out in pain and shoved her away. Erin took advantage of the moment to feign a twisted ankle and collapsed to the ground. Brian suddenly rushed over and hugged Erin. A foot kicked me hard in the stomach. "Cecilia, are you done yet?" "I'm not done. Erin, I hate you. Nosy bitch." All the grievances from these days suddenly erupted as I glared fiercely at the person on the ground. Erin burst into tears. Brian blocked her and grabbed me. "Come with me." Bang. He shoved me into the dusty equipment room. Hearing the sound of the lock clicking outside, I cried and pounded on the door. "Brian, what are you doing? You won't be let out until you admit your mistake. If you don't apologize to Erin, you'll never come out." Classmates who knew the situation whispered words of persuasion to him. "Brian, don't be like this. Cecilia didn't choose to get sick. By throwing out the test results like this, everyone will misunderstand her. Why don't you help explain for her? It's not that kind of disease, and it's not so serious. It's not contagious." Brian scoffed. "Explanation? Why should I explain? I was just joking in the first place. I never said she did anything dirty. She knows I speak my mind. For all these years, she's always been the one to back down first. I'll give her the cold shoulder for a few days, and she'll naturally come crying to beg for reconciliation. Just wait and see if you don't believe me." Erin kept crying outside the door. Brian patiently comforted her. I crouched in the dark room, hearing the commotion in the hallway. Wow. The school heartthrob carried the class beauty princess style to the infirmary. Gradually, the light outside the door grew dimmer. The noisy hallway fell silent. Locked in the dark equipment room, I panicked and shouted loudly, "Brian," but there was no response. Such darkness. It makes me involuntarily recall that summer when I was 12. Mom's boyfriend took advantage of her absence to lock me in the house right after school. I tried to run, but he caught and tied me up. When Mom came home that night, she discovered everything. She broke down and fought that man to protect me, but was beaten until covered in blood. At 12 years old, I didn't understand. But Mom couldn't go on living. That day she kept apologizing to me, and bought me an expensive cake I'd been craving. That afternoon, she turned on the gas. She swallowed sleeping pills while holding me, lying on the shabby bed. It was Brian who came to take me to see fireworks. only to find no response. He sensed something was wrong, but no one would help when he called for assistance. Left with no choice, he found a stone and forced the door open with sheer effort. Later, the ambulance arrived. His mother was taken away. I don't have money to pay the medical bills. It was Brian who smashed the piggy bank and lent me all his 5,000 yuan New Year's money. He saved me and my mom. He also learned what I went through that day. He held me tightly at the ICU door. He promised to protect me for a lifetime and to keep this secret for me. I owe him. I will always owe him. I stayed from day to night. Brian came to see me once. Through the door, he asked coldly, "Have you made up your mind to apologize to Aaron?" I suddenly felt tired. "I never want to compromise again," I shouted. "I won't apologize." Brian was provoked and kicked the door. "Cecilia, apologize to Aaron, or you're not coming out." In the silent night, only I remained, curled up alone in the cold equipment room. I don't know how many hours passed. The door was suddenly smashed open. A flashlight flickered on. The police officer standing outside looked at me with pity. "Are you Maria's daughter?" My heart was in turmoil. "What's wrong?" "My mom is dead. I don't know why." A person who was perfectly fine during the day ended up lying in the funeral parlor covered with a white cloth by night. A colleague from the factory said. In the afternoon, a group of students suddenly appeared near the factory, spreading rumors that I had contracted a filthy disease. It wasn't until then that my mother realized the harm she had caused me. I didn't go home that night. She thought I was angry with her. In despair, she jumped into the icy river in front of her home. It was discovered by night fishermen. He had been soaking in the water for 3 hours. Everything went black before my eyes. Supported by others, I was brought before her. Mother lay on the bed, covered with a white sheet. I didn't even have the courage to lift it open. At this moment, I suddenly felt utterly hopeless. The officer noticed something was wrong with me. "The child is still young. Don't look." "Mom." Her hand hung by the bedside. It was so cold, I merely touched it and was forced to leave. I stayed until morning. Those uncles and aunts told me to go home. I ran back in a daze. Opening the old door, I saw an iron box on the table. At that moment, I could no longer hold back my tears. The iron box contained all of Mom's savings. The fake gold given to her by those men, crumpled cash, and a bank card, and a new pair of underwear. I slumped to the ground. A sudden heavy rainstorm began outside the window. Yet no amount of thunder and lightning could drown out my sobs. I am the child my mother was forced to bear by relatives when she was young. She was hurt. Instead, I was despised by my grandparents. When I was little, they wanted to drown me. My mother refused and fled north alone with me in her arms. She didn't resent me for ruining her life. Instead, she raised me well. But last night, I just gave Erin a little push, and lost the last chance to see her. At dawn, I packed my bags, taking out my phone. I found the online friend I'd met on the internet and sent them a message. "Cora, you said you could introduce me to a job. Is that true?" The reply came quickly. "What? Are you coming?" Cora is a friend I met online. She fled from the mountains and worked alone in a factory in the south, to buy a burial plot for my mother and repay those people's money. I could no longer continue my studies. I begged her to find me a job. Cora quickly bought me a train ticket without hesitation. After 6 agonizing hours had passed, I boarded the train holding my mother's ashes. As the sky began to lighten at dawn, sitting on the green train, I deleted all the people I knew from my phone. After calling the homeroom teacher to report my safety, I left the city. Brian woke up very early the next day. He specifically went to buy my favorite steamed buns and soy milk. Standing at the door of the equipment room, Brian asked me patiently, "Cecilia, speak up. Do you know you're wrong?" No one responded to him. Brian couldn't swallow his pride and stormed back to the classroom angrily. Only then did he notice all his classmates had strange expressions on their faces. My textbooks were still on the desk. Nothing had been taken away, but the trash and thumbtacks above had all disappeared. Brian, having lost face, angrily slammed the soy milk onto my desk and asked the people around, "Has anyone seen Cecilia? Did someone let her out last night? He's really getting out of hand." Normally, this little thing would have already bowed his head to me. Is it really that hard to admit a mistake? My deskmate glared at him with a grim expression. "Was it you who locked her up yesterday?" Brian raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, what? Has she realized she was wrong and wants to apologize to me?" The whole class fell silent. No one answered him. Brian frowned. "What's the big deal? It's just a scholarship. A few $1,000. Is it really worth it? Apologizing to Aaron won't kill him. Aren't you terrified of the dark? Why so stubborn today? I didn't show up all day. Brian seemed distracted. Aaron went to find him, but he actually refused somewhat irritably. Brian stared at my desk, finally unable to hold back. He ran out during the break to buy me my favorite snacks. Then, on his own, he remembered my period was coming soon and helped me fill a thermos with hot water. They even wrote notes for the classes I missed and left them on my desk. But Brian waited from dawn till dusk, pacing countless circles outside the equipment room. No more sounds of my pleading were heard. When the evening self-study session ended, he couldn't help but open the door to the equipment room. Cecilia, just apologize. Is it really necessary for you to? Before he could finish speaking, he realized there was no one inside. Brian's expression finally changed. He rushed out of the classroom before the bell even rang. Ignoring Aaron chasing after him, he ran breathlessly into the alley, searching for my house. What are you doing? Brian saw people going in and out of my house. It's a family of strangers. Inside the house, my and my mom's belongings are being thrown out. What are you doing? Brian rushed over angrily, only to be stopped by the landlord with a dark expression. What are you doing, kid? The person who lived here. Cecilia. They moved out long ago. Scram. Don't disturb my business. Brian stepped back 2 paces, his face pale. Impossible. Cecilia would never leave. Brian laughed in extreme anger. Ha. Cecilia. Is it really necessary? Throwing a tantrum over such a trivial matter, he began shouting at the house. Cecilia, come out. Stop messing around. Will you? I don't need your apology anymore. I forgive you on behalf of Aaron. Cecilia. The gloomy sky quickly became overcast with dark clouds. Neighbors at the alley entrance heard the commotion and stood outside whispering. Occasionally, words like filthy and slut could be heard. Brian felt nothing but suffocating tightness in his chest. He clenched his teeth, gathered all the belongings the landlord had thrown outside the door, and carried them back home bit by bit. Cecilia, just wait till I find you. We'll settle the score then. Brian was brimming with confidence. The next day, he even arrived at the classroom first. I waited for a day. Another day passed. But still, there was no sign of me. Finally, he couldn't hold back and asked the homeroom teacher about my whereabouts. The homeroom teacher wore an indescribable expression. Cecilia. She dropped out of school. Brian took 2 steps back. His throat bobbed as he walked to the corner, pulled out his phone, and opened our chat dialogue. The last time was when I thanked him for accompanying me to the small clinic. The messages stopped a month ago. The day the class beauty Aaron transferred to our school. Brian clenched his jaw and stiffly typed a line. Cecilia, I forgive you. Where on earth are you? The message spun 3 circles but failed to send. Brian finally realized. He'd been blocked. Brian was searching all over the small town for me. I'm working day and night on the assembly line in a black factory down south. I keep my mother's ashes under my bed in the dormitory. It's the only precious thing I have. I blocked Brian. Yet he persistently called me over and over again. I tirelessly blocked one after another. The line supervisor, seeing how young I was, often found excuses to make me stay overtime. At night, greasy middle-aged men in their 40s and 50s tried to reach their hands into my collar. The painful memories came flooding back once more. I roared and pushed him away, grabbing a screwdriver and threatening with my life. The man reluctantly backed off. Returning to the dorm, I found the girl who arrived earlier had turned my bed into a complete mess. The few $100 I earned had vanished without a trace. I watched as they surrounded me in a tight circle, not daring to say a word. I just kept my head down, packed my things, and moved into an old 12-person dormitory with my mother's ashes in my arms. This summer seemed endlessly long, so long that I felt life was hopeless. Brian kept trying to contact me through our homeroom teacher. He wanted to know where I was, why I left, without even an explanation. But I hung up every time he called. On the day of the college entrance exam, I sat in the workshop sealing packages when tears suddenly fell onto the conveyor belt. On the day I dropped out, the homeroom teacher insisted on keeping my student status for me. She said that once I earned enough money to properly bury my mother, I should return to continue my studies. Getting me into university was my mother's dying wish. I won't give up. I worked day and night in this sweatshop for 2 years. Brian had already been admitted to college. I never expected he would show up at the factory gate during summer vacation. The message was relayed by the security guard. Brian, over the years, He kept pestering the homeroom teacher and finally found out where I went. He stood at the factory gate, catching the attention of countless passing girls. He was still as dazzling as ever, and I, dressed in rough work clothes, hid in the corner, did not see him. Countless days and nights of tears have taught me. Brian, I no longer like him. I hate him, yet I shouldn't hate him. He saved both me and my mother, but he also harmed my mother. Looking at his figure, I couldn't help but recall that summer night. What a tremendous resolve it must have taken for Mom to jump into that icy river. I wish Brian would die. Give me back my mother. My emotions are complex. Pain. I don't understand why the person who protected me since childhood has changed. The more I hate him, the memories become even clearer. When I was 5 years old and moved into this alley with my mother, as a widow with a child, many people would deliberately target us. When my mother wasn't at home, some people even swaggered into my house to rummage through valuables. Whenever my mom came home, there were always hooligans catcalling her. Drunkards under the streetlights would follow me home from school. In those days, I couldn't even sleep at night. Later, Brian somehow spent money to hire a few tough guys from the streets. When my mom wasn't home, they would stay at my place, keeping me company along with Brian. Those troublemakers gradually started to back off. Later, I caught an illness from my mom and was terrified, not knowing what to do. It was Brian who took me to the clinic. I had no money. The money for the checkup was also from his long-saved New Year's lucky money. At school, Brian teased me, but they wouldn't let anyone else bully me. Sometimes Mom would get drunk and go crazy in the house. Brian would secretly take me away to the arcade by the street, where we'd spend the whole afternoon. Good or bad, Brian occupied nearly a decade of my life. I thought we would never see each other again, but fate had other plans. I never expected that 6 years later, we would meet again. After leaving the factory, I settled my mother and finished college. On graduation day, my phone suddenly received an invitation. It was a class reunion organized by the class monitor. I struggled for a long time, but ultimately decided to give an account of the past. This rotten youth should also come to an end. Friends who knew about it were concerned about my state and decided to accompany me. I refused. At the class reunion, I arrived late. As soon as I pushed the door open, I bumped into a familiar figure. Brian. At that moment, our eyes met. I lowered my head and brushed past him. Like a stranger, a classmate I hadn't seen in years spotted me. Their eyes lit up, and they began whispering among themselves. I never expected Cecilia to become so beautiful now. Didn't she drop out of school? Why does she seem to be doing quite well? I really regret hurting her back then. I was too young at the time. Familiar classmates have come to me one by one to apologize. I've never forgotten the pain they caused me. On behalf of my 18-year-old self, I accepted these apologies, but did not forgive them, until a hoarse voice interrupted these conversations. Cecilia. Brian walked up to me and just stared at me like that. I was just about to speak when the door opened. I'm really sorry, everyone. I'm late. A fragrant breeze swept by as Aaron, dressed in a little black dress and high heels, pushed the door open and naturally linked arms with Brian. My boyfriend didn't even wait for me. Really? The students' whispers started up again. Brian is now said to be a successful entrepreneur in City A, and Aaron seems to be engaged to him. They're such a perfect match. Shoo. Keep it down. Cecilia is still here. I turned and walked away quickly, but was grabbed by the arm. Brian blocked Aaron from seeing the ugly expression. Looking up, eyes bloodshot. Cecilia, is this really necessary? My silence served as my answer. At this point, I was thoroughly fed up. Please move aside. Just because of some idle gossip. You've avoided me for so long. Brian roared out loud. His voice trembled. After all these years, how can you sleep at night? I broke free from Brian. During Erin's struggle with him, she managed to run away. After I left, the class monitor from back then stared at Brian in shock. Don't you know why Cecilia left back then? The other classmates also wore expressions as if everyone already knew the truth. This time, Brian was the one who froze. He didn't know. Cecilia dropped out because her mother passed away. Brian took 2 steps back, his face turning pale. Did her mother pass away? Back then, the news of me contracting a venereal disease had spread like wildfire throughout the school. Some troublemakers even went out of their way to spread the rumor near the factory. Brian paled and leaned heavily against the table, hearing the cautious voice of the class monitor. Cecilia's mom passed away that night. It seems you locked her in the equipment room, causing her to miss her last chance to see her mom. By the time everyone found her, she was already at the funeral home. Brian, it's not your fault either. Erin tried to cling to him coquettishly, but he harshly pushed her away. Get lost. In the night, Brian drove wildly down the road. The Maybach stopped at the entrance of a pitch-black alley. Brian flung open the door of the old house I used to live in a panic, only to find it completely empty. I'm not in the classroom, nor at school, nor is it at the secret base we used to always go to. No one answers my call. Brian searched the entire county town, until he drove to the river near my mom's factory. Cecilia. No. His eyes widened in horror, yet he was hundreds of meters away, watching helplessly. A familiar figure leaped from the bridge, like a butterfly with broken wings, falling, ripples spreading in layers. In the icy river water, Brian was frantically searching for my figure. Flashlights on the shore swept across chaotically. When I opened my eyes, red-eyed Brian sat by my bed, staring at me intently like that. The nurses nearby leaned against the door and whispered among themselves. I remember this girl. A few years ago, her mother was brought in after jumping into the river. She didn't even make it to the emergency room before passing away. She was only 18, crying and begging each of us to save her mother. But there was nothing we could do. Later, she knelt alone in the morgue and cried the entire night. The person was reduced to ashes before she left. Clutching the urn, Brian clutched his head, his body trembling uncontrollably. He murmured repeatedly, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. His hands gripped the edge of the bed tightly, veins bulging. Only when he saw my open eyes, Brian stopped crying. Seeing me wake up, Brian's eyes held a helplessness and panic I'd never seen before. Cecilia, please don't do anything foolish. I'm sorry. I didn't know back then that Auntie would. Suppressing the ache in my heart, I ignored his incessant chatter and took out my phone to make a call. Half an hour later, a man exuding a cold aura, dressed in an expensive suit, appeared at the hospital room door. Chunk is here. He abandoned the international conference and flew in on a red-eye flight from another city, ignoring Brian, who stood frozen in place. I spoke softly. Chunk, take me home. Chunk's assistant immediately completed the procedures, planning to drive me away overnight. Brian was devastated. He gripped my hand tightly and cautiously asked me, Who is this? Boyfriend. Chunk answered for me. Cecilia, why won't you give me a chance? The corridor window was left open, and a cold breeze swept through, leaving me chilled to the bone. The day Mom left, I took the midnight train. Standing in that unfamiliar city, the wind felt just as bitterly cold. I arrived at the address Cora had given me, only to discover Cora wasn't there. On the other end of the internet cable was a wealthy young master who enjoyed teasing people. Chunk. His original intention was just to tease me, but he never expected I'd actually show up. Feeling remorseful after learning I'd genuinely stayed and worked at the factory for so long, he offered me a job. I followed his driver and went to work as a cleaner at his family's company. Living in the storage room at the company, though simple, was much better than the factory. Later, I saved up enough money and returned to study. He helped find my mother's gravesite, my college expenses, my mother's high-interest loans. Chunk took care of them all. I owe him so much that I can never repay it. Chunk, take me away. My phone received a photo from an unknown number. The photo showed Brian kneeling in front of my mother's grave, apologizing. Are you satisfied now? I know this was Erin who sent it. Lifted my hand and blocked her. The 6 months after the class reunion, my account kept receiving inexplicable transfers. Brian got my new phone number from the homeroom teacher and called me many times. I didn't refuse, nor did I respond, until I was about to get married. The first time I sent him a message in that chat window, it was a digital invitation. Brian didn't reply. I thought he wouldn't come, until the wedding day. I stood on the stage wearing a wedding dress worth a fortune. Brian pushed through the crowd, scooped me up, and ran. His car was right at the entrance of the hall. He shoved me into the passenger seat. The sports car sped off quickly. Brian looked at me, almost begging. Cecilia, forgive me. Marry me. Give me a chance to atone. I beg you. Even if it torments me for a lifetime, I'm willing. Okay. I didn't speak, staring at my meticulously made-up reflection in the rearview mirror. I hated him. I longed to torment him. I wish he had died instead of Mom. I saw myself nod, heard myself answer, okay. Brian was overwhelmed with excitement. He pulled out a red velvet box from his pocket. A huge and dazzling diamond ring was slipped onto my middle finger. I was very compliant. He cried tears of joy. Are you sick? Cecilia, Brian is dead. He died in that car accident. At the critical moment of life and death, he pushed me out. Just after the anniversary of my mother's passing, I attended his funeral. Chuck came to see me many times. I didn't marry him. Instead, I took out all my savings and repaid all the money he had helped me with over the years. Chunk's eyes had never looked so sorrowful before. I hugged him, sent him off on his departing flight. On a windy day, I bought the small rented house where my mother and I used to live. Holding the iron box my mother left behind, I swallowed sleeping pills, lying quietly on the bed I once shared with Mom. Mom's smile and Brian's sobbing swirl and distort before my eyes, until the world spins out of control. A gust of wind blows by. The lights went out. The music stopped. The world fell silent. I think, to choose such a way to free oneself is so painful. The day Mom held me and decided to leave, it must have taken immense courage. The end.